Hey everyone, it's Jeremy talking today about step 2 in the program of recovery. Um, it's been said, you can hear a lot of different things, that it's easy, it's hard. But the thing that sticks out most to me is that, of all the things I heard, is nobody gets all of step 2 at step 2. It's not, you don't have to get 100% on the test in order to move on to step 3, which is good. That's step 1, actually. It basically, in my experience, it comes down to, when we were in our addictions, we used those addictions as a way of getting out of ourselves. We were looking for something to ease our pains. Women, gambling, drugs, alcohol, debting, whatever other addictions there are that I don't know about. And this is an idea that comes up in the literature of recovery, that we basically do have an idea of a higher power, even if you don't know it. Because, like in my case, using substances to make me happy, I was turning my will in my life, that's step 3, over to step 2, which was I knew that drugs and alcohol would make me happy. We did have some sort of belief that there was something out there in the world. He actually created the world, in the universe. There's something out there that will take away our suffering. It's that simple. It really is. And I had a hard time with step 2. I didn't get that right away. I didn't know that for a long time. I was turning to drugs and alcohol to make me happy, to cure my misery. Although it was a temporary fix, that's what I did for 12 years. Was turning to things like that for ease and comfort. And it's hard. It's the drugs and the alcohol or the gambling, whatever it is the easy way out. Step 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. We admitted insanity in step 1. We are the only species on the planet that will actively kill itself off, whether it by war or we killing ourselves. We are the only species on the planet that will do either one of those things. And this is why we need step 2. It's... They say in recovery that the steps come from greater books. It's it's the Bible for dummies, basically, or if you want to say the Quran for dummies, or whatever the Hindu books are for dummies. That's basically what the 12 steps are. So in step 2, we have to realize that in step 1, if we were all powerful, if we knew everything, if we were able to do everything, we would have been able to put our addictions down. So step 1 is I cannot do that. Step 2 is he can, it can, she can, whatever. Step 3, we'll go into another video, is so let that power take care of that. Now, I'll tell you in my experience, when I first came in, when I first sat with a sponsor, we were sitting in the Starbucks, and he says, "Why are we here? Why did you come here?" I said, "Because you told me to meet you here." He says, "Thank you. I was there when I told you. But why are we here?" I said, "Because you're going to help me with this problem I have." And we went through it, and eventually, I didn't get it right away. It was because I'm powerless over alcohol, and my life is unmanageable. I used a couple of 4-letter words in there, but because my life is in hell. And I found it very hard. And when I sat there doing that step 1, I won't say his name, and I said, "Sponsor, here's the bag of bricks that I'm carrying. All yours. I don't want it." He says, I got rid of my ton of bricks. I got rid of it. I don't want yours. And if I couldn't handle my own problems, what makes me think I can handle yours? No, no. What are you going to do about it? And I said, I don't know. I really don't know. And I've said this in previous videos, and you're going to laugh at it. You know, I said, I have no idea of any concept of a higher power. None. I had no contact with the religion of my youth. In, God knows, in 15 years, I had no contact with it at all. And didn't know anything about religion anyway because of, I was God, apparently, so I thought. And it was a long process, and having these discussions with my sponsor at the time, we didn't always see eye to eye, but what hit was, what I was able to use in that moment was George Costanza. If everything I've ever done has been wrong, by default, the opposite has to be right. So, my higher power is not what I would normally do, but the opposite. Step 3 made a decision to turn I don't know if I might have said the steps wrong. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. I might have said that wrong at the beginning. See, I still make mistakes. But it's a power greater than myself would be the exact opposite of what I would normally do. Instead of making a left, I'm going right. Instead of going forwards, I'm going to turn around and go forward the other direction. Instead of George Costanza's tuna on rye, he's going to get chicken salad on whole wheat. And he says, he goes, you see that girl over there? That I could sit here, oh, look at her, and she's out of my league, and this and that and the other thing. And I would sit here, and then later in the day, after I didn't approach her, I would regret not approaching her. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try telling her the truth. He goes up to her. He goes, hi, my name is George. I'm bald, I'm unemployed, and I live with my parents. And she goes, oh, hey, how are you? She's interested. Look at that. Because he told her the truth. Instead of Vandelay and Steinbrenner and the Yankees, he told her the truth. He realized that if something he's doing is wrong, by default, the opposite has to be right. And that's not always an easy step. That could be taking a leap of faith. I think it's one of the Harrison Ford movies, the Indiana Jones, where you know what, better example that I can go with is Neo in The Matrix. I love The Matrix, and I never was into Indiana Jones. The end of the third Matrix, when you know the movie's about to be over. Neo, at this point, is blind. His eyes were taken out in a fight. They were burned out, literally, and he couldn't see. He was going on faith. He physically could not see. And you see in the movie, as if it's from his perspective, him walking along a path. I think it is physically there, but through his eyes, you see the burning and the code of the Matrix. And this is a thing that has never been done before. In the 5 previous versions of the Matrix, the first 5 ones turned around. Even before that point, they turned around at the architect's room. But Neo says, no, this affects you as much as it does me. He goes, I'm going to do this. I'm not accepting your limiting ways, your control. And he goes and does it. And if you look it up, that scene, wouldn't know what the name of the scene is, but when he's going to fight Smith for the final time, and he's walking, and you see that red, and he does not see where he's going. He does not know where he's going. He does not know he's walking into... he kind of knows he's walking into a fight with Smith. Kind of. He doesn't even know that 100%. And he goes and does it. And that's something that we have to do every day. You know, when they say these things in sobriety, courage is not the Courage is not the absence of fear, but having the fear and doing it anyway. Having new experiences. It's trying something different. It's getting out of the comfort zone. Now, when I first got sober, I was working at a gym as a personal trainer. And one of the basic things of weightlifting, whether you know it or not, consciously, you know it, but you don't. I certainly didn't see it either. It's not something that I find people would think about. But if you're gonna start, you're however old you are, you're gonna go to a gym. You're 14, or maybe you're an injured old man, injured old. Well, it could be me. Holy crap, or an injured old lady, and you want to get on the bench press. That bar is 45 pounds. Nobody starts off, not Arnold Schwarzenegger, not anybody today, started bench pressing 315 pounds. 0 people have started there. Start off with the bar. Maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger started out at 100 pounds. Who knows? You start with the bar. Hey, you're an injured person. You're just off a surgery, and you want to hit the weights. You start with the bar. It's 45 pounds. But getting out of that comfort zone, what does it look like? It looks like taking a 2.5 pound weight on each side. So you're adding 5 pounds. That's 50 pounds. You do it again, 2.5 on each side. That's 55 pounds. And however long it takes for you to get to 100 is fine, or 200 or 300. Most people don't get to 300. Or not everyone gets to 200 either. But that's where you start. You start with the bar and say, okay, I'm going to go to 50 today. And that's coming to believe, and it took me a very long time to realize this. It takes a process. Not everybody, there's another cliche saying, not everybody gets all of step 2 at step 2. But it is it could take a year, 2 years, 6 years, who knows? It took me about 4.5 years to get a sufficient enough step 2 to do an even better step 3. It took about 4.5 years. When looking back on my life, what happened was when I hit, my first sponsor was very much, you need Jesus, you need Jesus. I'm like, dude, let me have my own experience. Because he used to say that a lot too. What wound up happening was at about 2 years sober, I was driving down the road, a main road, kind of near where I lived, and I had to go to the bathroom. There was a Walmart right there. I knew that road, that section of that road very well. I'm like, you know what? Okay, I'm going to the Walmart. I'll use the bathroom real quick. Decided to browse through, and what is next to every regular, not supermarket, Walmart, next on one side of the restrooms is entertainment, electronics, and books. And I decided to browse through. I was just going to take a walk, and something stuck out. It's a Bible with words of Christ in red. Like, look at that. Impulse buy. Let's see. $10. Done. And started to read it. Didn't understand all of it. I did not understand most of it. I'm sure, and I've been through it a couple of times, cover to cover. I may never not understand all of it. And started to look at my life at some point. I did go through a terrible depression shortly after that. But at some point, this was happening. I was going through it and starting to listen to sermons. I have satellite radio. I got it for Howard Stern, and now I listen to both. But now I listen to Joel Osteen too, and some of the those type of shows too. And it was part of the process. And this will come back later, that I still didn't really have a good concept of step two. I was going with George Costanza. If everything I've ever done has been wrong, by default, the opposite has been right. And time goes on. I go back to college. I decided I had wanted to go back to school while I was still drinking. Couldn't do it. Money, depression, motivation. I'd rather be drinking. Um, Decided I was gonna go for it. You know what? Why not? And in that process, that first semester I went back to school, which was about 15 months after I picked up the Bible, maybe 14 months. I studied nutrition. That first semester I went back. In AA, they talk about vital spiritual experiences. Now, one of those classes I took when I first went back, they broke apart the word vitamin as it's translated in English. It comes from vital and amino, which is with minerals, could also be said as with nitrogen. But let me ask you a question, very simple question. What happens when you don't feed your body? I think everybody on the planet who's old enough knows. If you don't feed your body, you're not going to live very long, whether it's by food or by water. And same thing. Step two. I have to feed my soul, which then leads us to step three. I have to feed maybe you call it your spirit. You can call it, you feed your sanity, feed your mind. You have to feed your soul daily, or you die, or you go a long addicted life, or you die soon, or whatever it is. And that is the point of step two. Coming to realize that we have to feed our sanity on a daily basis. And it's not always easy with the self-centeredness, egotistical and selfish to the extreme, as the big book calls us. To realize, and something is, I'm not sure I said it before, is if I was all powerful, I would have the ability to stop drinking. It's that simple. If I can't stop drinking, I don't have power over everything. Because we found one thing I don't have power over. And part of the process I find is that we are powerless over almost everything. Some people, if you are in recovery, you might understand why I say almost everything. So we are powerless, and I've said we're powerless over everything. It could go either way, but the reality is I'm powerless over almost everything. Even though I do sometimes think I'm powerless over everything. But, and that's step two. Even if I am powerless over one thing, that means I don't have all power. Now, one of my first sponsors, we lived in a beach town in New York, on Long Island, and he pulled me. Had to be December or January, and it's freezing. And the meeting we would go to was 1 block off the beach. And and one day he says, meet me on the boardwalk in 10 minutes. It was the end of the meeting. So I go over there, I'm waiting for him, and we're sitting there. And he says, look at that out. I didn't want to be there. I was fighting him on him. I said, I'm not going outside right now when it's 10 degrees outside and there's snow on the ground. No. But went anyway. It was a little fight, but I went. And he says, you see that ocean out there? It was a completely calm ocean. Like the waves were 1 millimeter big. And he says, can you do that? I said, what? He goes, look at that ocean. Look at it. Can you make the ocean? Make the tides, the waves. Make the beach. Build a planet. You can't build the water, let alone build a planet. Like, can you? I'm like, oh my God. Very interesting. I don't think of that often, things like that. But this is the essence of step two. if I can't even get myself to stop taking in a liquid, how do I have power over anything? Came to believe that there is a better way. You can steal the George Costanza example. If everything I've ever done has been wrong, by default, the opposite has to be right. And that's what 3 and 4 are about. You're going to decide to do everything opposite, and we have to know what that opposite is. So that's 3 and 4. I think I'm going to wrap it up. But this is, again, vital. Not only for our body. You know, if you don't eat, you're not gonna live very long. If you don't drink water, you're not gonna live very long. It's the same thing with your mind, your spirit, your soul, whichever you'll call it. And that is the point of the steps of AA.